What's up, guys? We're back with another Bandai Tamashii Nations review, taking a look at a line that I'm familiar with, but a property that I've never looked at before. Right? Yeah, I don't think I've ever looked at anything from this before. So we're taking a look at a Robot Spirits Evangelion figure. So we've got and this is a mouthful, we've got the Evangelion Type 8 β-ICC, which is Improvised Combat Configuration. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm really excited to take a look at this guy, because I have sort of looked at the EVA figures from afar and have never dipped my toe in, but that might change after we take a look at this guy. So we've got him here in a pretty wide format style box. You've got a big shot of the Evangelion unit on the front. The sides have some product shots running up and down the spine. And then the back of the box has got a big shot of the EVA, as well as a few other smaller shots with a window on the back that shows the head of the unit back there, which actually is pretty cool. I like the presentation on this box quite a bit. It's very familiar, but a little bit different from the norm. So let's do it. Let's pull it out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Robot Spirits Neon Genesis Evangelion Unit 8 Beta ICC version. So again, like I said, this is a big mouthful. And before we get started into this review, I do have to mention that this guy was provided for the purposes of review by Bluefin. And this is definitely my first foray into EVA Robot Spirits. Not because I haven't wanted them, just because I haven't really taken the plunge, like I said. But this thing is pretty cool, but it's also super, super weird. And I'm sure that's not lost on you looking at this. I mean, just look at this thing. It is a ridiculous design by all accounts. And honestly, it's pretty cool. Like, this is really, really weird stuff, at least as far as an action figure goes. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility for anything Evangelion related, but as a toy, you don't know right out of the gate, does this really work? Is this gonna work? And surprisingly, this works. This thing has such a weird design that translates into an action figure. I mean, it's just so unique. I certainly don't have anything else that moves like this, and it surprisingly moves really well, despite, again, how disparate all the parts seem to be. It really doesn't seem like it should work, and yet it kind of does. There are a few little things here and there about this guy, but the big drawback that I thought we were going to have at the arms is honestly probably the coolest aspect of this figure for me, at least as far as the engineering goes. So to start with, we've got a head that can look all the way up, and it can look all the way down pretty much as well. You do have an independently articulated neck, so you can kind of bobble around a little bit. You've got really, really good tilt side to side. I mean, that's probably way more than you'd ever really need. And then you've got full rotation. You do have to kind of watch the spikes on the head. They hit this like antenna in the back, but it's not really a big deal. The arms are on a ring system, so they spin around this ring. So, I mean, think about it in the confines of like a butterfly joint. To get him to cross the chest, I mean, you could not possibly ask for more. It is a goofy design, but functionally wise, this works so well. I really didn't expect it to do this good. Arms go out all the way. I mean, that's more than 90 degrees. You can also rotate them a full 360 there. You've got a bicep swivel and kind of an upper elbow swivel here. So it's kind of like a swiveling elbow. It's just kind of high. This piece right here basically is just sort of the middleman. So this piece will also rotate if you need it to. And then you've got arms that go about 90 degrees, a little bit higher than 90 degrees at the elbow. And then you've got the wrist here. And there are these little pieces that I might have to mention. These will pop off because they are part of the accessory set in terms of changing them up. So watch out for these little red pieces here. They might pop off if you're removing them. But he's got hinges at the wrist, which at first I honestly didn't know, and there goes one of those little guys. I did not know that was there. It's almost hidden, but it's a hinge. And then you've got rotation, but he's also got kind of this claw grabber. So this thing will open up as well if you kind of shimmy it open there. And we'll put this guy back on while we're doing that, while the other one also will just fall right off. So that's definitely like the one thing to keep an eye out for is these little guys. You've got there is a upper torso cut here. It's really, really hard to use. He just sort of bobbles in this little ring system up here, but you've got a waist twist down here that can get you to swivel all the way around. You can tilt side to side, backwards and forwards pretty good. Honestly, better than I would have expected. The tilt side to side is kind of limited, but forwards is pretty good for how angular he is. Legs go out, let's see, they go out about that far. You do have a drop down hip, so they go out a little bit further. They kick forward more than 90 degrees. They kick backwards. I mean, you probably don't need that much, but they kick back all the way. We've got our thigh swivel there. You do have double jointed knees. And then we've got pretty good ankles down here. So I think they kind of took into consideration the fact that there was going to be a limitation on the ankle hinge, because it only goes back a little bit based on how the design is made, and he goes forward pretty good, but they've kind of supplemented it with this ridiculous rocker. Look at that. So he rocks all the way to the side, and it doesn't break up the sculpt any because, of course, it's, you know, a big mech robot type of thing, so it doesn't really make it look too weird. We've seen joints like this before with other figures. You know, most notably in my mind is Filmation Motu Classics, the original ones for Mattel. They had these and they looked hideous on those figures, but this kind of joint looks just fine on a Robot Spirit. So I really, really like that. I mean, that's a broken ankle by any accounts, but it works so well when you're moving this guy around. So yeah, I mean, this thing moves really, really well. It does have a little bit of a hindrance at, say, maybe the elbow, because it could go a little bit more, and then around the torso area, but I've had no issues actually posing this thing or getting it into really crazy, weird poses. It's a lot of fun to move around, and honestly, this ring system, like, I am here for this. I know it's not something you're ever really going to see again, but this is so cool from a functionality standpoint, just to be able to play around with it and get those arms wherever you want. It works so well. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, the aesthetics, I really think they nailed it. I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot to complain about here because it looks like it's supposed to, and it feels really good. As far as construction goes, it very much feels like a Robot Spirits to me. I mean, obviously it should, but again, this is my first Evangelion Robot Spirits, so I haven't had any experience with it, but it feels like a Gundam to me. As far as construction, plastic, the overall feel of the plastic, it works really well, and it's a goofy design, and I've said it a number of times, when it comes to really weird, goofy toys, I'm usually more interested than not. And this guy definitely piqued my interest. So it works. As kind of, I mean, I'll say it, as kind of stupid as this design looks at first glance, it's a pretty cool looking action figure, and I think they really did a good job of translating this from screen to plastic. There isn't a ton of paint on this guy, but there also is probably more than you might expect for a Robot Spirits. They don't normally have tons of paint slathered all over them. Usually it's good use of cast plastic, and that is the same thing here, but this guy does have a lot of paint on it. As far as all of these black details, you've got the various shading from pink to black on the legs, the little white accents, and then all of these kind of hazard strips that run across the orange arms here, not to mention the details on these canisters here, the stuff that's on the ring, as well as on these kind of inner pylons on the inside of the shoulder pads there. So there is a little bit more paint than I expected to see, but it's really well done. I mean, overall, the finish is nicely done. Everything's clean and crisp. No real issues to speak of. Nothing as far as paint flubs or anything like that. The only real thing I don't really care for about this figure is something that, I mean, you saw it happen when I was moving them around. These little guys here, I'm not a big fan of them. I don't really know how they could have implemented them differently, but they are a worry to me because I figure that I'm going to lose them. They pop off probably easier than they should. But overall, that's kind of a minor nitpick. You do have to take them off to utilize the accessories, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I really like this guy. It is, again, kind of a disparate bunch of parts that have been thrown together. So you've got these look very much like Nerve Evangelion pylons on the inside of the shoulders. They're really nicely done. These like construction style arms, of course, are very unique and very different from the rest. So you've got a very standard Evangelion lower half, which looks really good. I like that kind of pale pink with the slight orange and black and white accents. And then you've got the bandaged wrapped torso, which of course is really unique. It's really different. It's certainly not something you expect to find on most robot figures. So of course that's very different and just kind of cool and weird. Again, it's a weird looking figure, and I dig the head sculpt on this thing though. I think it's really cool. The different shades of purple, white, and pink with kind of these olive metallic eyes. And then the kind of crest that's in the center. It's just really well sculpted, really well painted, and overall, outside of the fact that it's kind of a goofy looking figure, but it works so well. It's just a really different thing that has a lot of shelf presence, just right out of the gate. You don't even have to throw the accessories on him, and you know that there is something weird to see here, but it is so cool. And honestly, this is something that unfortunately has made me want to get more Evangelion robot spirits. So I mean, it's good and it's bad, because I don't need to get into another line, but at the same time, I'm having so much fun with this one that why not get the rest, I suppose. And then for some size comparisons, because obviously this guy is, again, kind of weird looking. You know, what size is he? Here he is with a couple standard figures as far as our normal sizes that we deal with, at least when it comes to the channel. So we've got the Beskar Mando from Black Series over here, and then we've got the most recent Spawn figure, 7-inch from McFarlane. So you can see that the Eva is about 7 inches tall to the top of the pylons on the shoulders, but he has a lot of overall girth and just presence because of the wide set nature of the shoulders and then the length of the arms. It looks bigger than it actually is, but it's still a pretty impressive figure for this line. And then let's, here he is with the Laughing Prince Adam, because I don't know, why not? And another robot type thing. We've got the RED Soundwaves, and he towers over Soundwave, just like pretty much everything else is going to because of the size of that line. And then because I've got it handy, here is a Master Grade Gundam kit. So the Master Grade Sandrock here, and you can see that's pretty comparable as far as overall size, so he would actually fit in with this kind of stuff pretty decently. Still doesn't really work in that regard, but you can get an idea of how big this thing is. It has a lot of overall presence without being an absolutely massive figure. A lot of that comes in from the ring system, and then just the way those arms are structured. The big pylons and the overall length of those arms make him look bigger than he is, but he still has a decent amount of size to him. Now, as far as accessories goes, this thing comes with a lot of stuff, but it's ultimately not a lot of different accessories. It's all kind of various pieces that make up the gun assembly for this big guy. And it's pretty weird, honestly. Just like everything else about this thing, it's just kind of weird because it's all so big and weird in a good way, not a bad way. So you've got the gun cannons here, and these guys fit on top of the claws. There are 4 of these little pieces on the outside of the claws that you just pop off, and then you can pop this gun on. And then you've got a couple of different options here. So you can see you've got these 2 ports right there, and they just sit over top of these little pegs. And they stay well enough. I haven't had too many issues with them falling off, although they are kind of heavy, so you do have to balance them a little bit. But you've got like 2 kind of Vulcan cannons here, and then you've got these rounds that are wrapped up in kind of ribbons. So you've got 4 of these to peg into the top of your guns, because you of course have 2 sets of 2 guns, but then you've also got these here. So you've got these big trailing ribbons as well. So you've got 4 sets of these. So you've got an extra pair. So you can have them where he hasn't fired yet or where he has fired, and then you kind of start him in action basically. So you've got a way to arm the Eva units, and then a way to kind of more dynamically display the fact that it is using its gun. So they are very big, and they add a lot more size and especially length to the arms than these already massive arms have. So they're pretty cool. There's not really any paint on them, but the sculpt is nice, and I do really like the idea of having these sort of trailing ribbons of rounds as well. It makes things look a little bit more dynamic when you're taking pics. And then this thing also does come with a pretty specific Tamashii stand as well. So we've got, to begin with, just the little adapter piece for him. So you've got a piece that will actually attach to the bottom of the Evangelion. So you've got this little guy here to attach as sort of like a catch-all for the figure itself. And then we've got, I'm not going to take them out of the tray or anything, you've got this big array of parts. So you've got an option to have the base, and then you've got a stand for the core of the unit, as well as stands for the arms if you want to have them in a really dynamic pose so you can support the arms. Because like I've said a few times, the arms, especially the ones with the guns, once you have it all together, they are very heavy, so that you do have to support them if you've got them kind of in an aerial pose or anything like that. For the most part, I haven't truly needed this, but it's nice to get it. I mean, this is a lot of stand plastic, basically, when it comes down to it. They threw a lot of potential here just to pose this guy and make sure he doesn't come crashing down on your shelf. So yeah, this is a pretty solid figure. There's really not a lot to complain about on this one. I obviously can see that this might not be the figure for everyone just because it is different. It's weird, it's goofy, it's kind of a wonky design, but it surprisingly works as an action figure. Despite the crazy ring system, these massive, massive shoulders and arms, it works really well. It still manages to have a great deal of posability. It has this wacky design that has, honestly, a great sculpt to it, great paint application. He comes with a decent array of accessories. Again, it's all kind of various parts for the gun array, but you get options with it, and I'm always down to have options like that. Not to mention the fact that whether you need it or not, you do get a pretty robust stand system that honestly I wasn't expecting to see in this box. So for my first foray into Evangelion Robot Spirits, I'd say I came out pretty satisfied. This thing looks and plays and feels so much better than I expected it to just based on this design. It is weird, it's funny, it's goofy, but it works as an action figure. I'm pretty much sold on this. So that's going to do it for this look at the Robot Spirits Neon Genesis Evangelion Unit 8 Beta ICC version. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.